Oh, okay. Greetings of the day to each one joining us from different parts of the world right now. Welcome to the webinar series, Career Talks, Navigating the Path of Waste Entrepreneurs, an online session with accomplished waste entrepreneurs who will share their career paths, offer valuable advice, and address questions from aspiring young professionals like you. My name is Pratishtha Shwester, and I'm a Vice Chair of Career Development Working Group of YPG ISWA, and I'm very delighted to be your moderator for today's insightful discussion on career development and growth. But before diving into our exciting content, let's go through some session protocol. First, please ensure your internet connection is stable and you can hear and see us. If there is any technical glitch from our side or the speaker's end, we will try to resolve it as soon as possible. We request your patience in such a case. Second, we have a fantastic speaker today, but before the introduction, please take a moment to introduce yourself in the chat, as it always feels great to connect with the like-minded people, and let us know who you are and where are you joining us from. Also share your LinkedIn ID for networking purposes, because I believe networks and relationships are a very powerful asset in this world, and through it, we can definitely make a tremendous positive impact. So let's start from mine in itself. Okay, let's share it to meeting group chat. Here you go for the mine. Let's make this session at the last. Let's make this session an interactive one. We encourage you to participate in today's talks actively throughout the session. You can post your questions, thoughts, comments on the chat box, and we will do our best to address as many as possible. So before moving forward with our speakers segment, I would like to briefly talk about what YPG ISWA is and its career development working group is. For those who are aware of it, well and good. But for the new audience, the ISWA, which stands for the International Solid Waste Association, has a young professional group comprised of members below 35 years old with a shared passion for solid waste management, knowledge sharing, collaboration, innovation, supporting our vision that is an earth where no waste exists. Under it, there is a different working groups, for instance, such as Career Development Wing, which is right now hosting you, where we organize various programs with a mission to support our YPG members' career path. For more information, please check our website and follow us on LinkedIn. Now, without further ado, let me introduce to our speaker for our first session of the Career Talks webinar series 2023. Chapter 1, The Art of Sustainable Transformation, Odyssey from Drama to Circular Economy Leadership. Our speaker, Chris Fisher, founder of the Cyclical Collective, has been involved with the creative waste management for many years. After completing a BA in drama and a postgraduate diploma in enterprise management, he spent 2 years traveling Southeast Asia. A year was spent on a tiny island in Cambodia, developing a closed-loop waste management system. Through this experience, his passion for circularity and community development grew along with his drive to create a systematic change using waste-to-resource methodology. When his acting career came to an abrupt halt during the pandemic, he put the time into setting the manifestation of the Cyclical Collective, a lifetime project dedicated to shifting our lifestyle to a more symbiotic relationship with our planet. He launched the Cyclical Collective in 2021, a platform for nurturing the community's initiative rooted in closed-loop design thinking and circular principles. Welcome, Chris. We are very delighted to have you as a speaker and mentor for the Career Talk. And without further ado, the platform is all yours, and I'll be sharing the screen from your behalf. Okay, let me quickly do that. And please introduce yourself if you want to our audience.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. ISWA seems like an incredible organization that's it's only going to grow from strength to strength, and it's an absolute privilege and honor to be the first speaker with this ongoing kind of platform of networking and engaging with like-minded people. I'm really, really honored to be here, so thank you very much. So I just want to go through the slides just to get a general idea about how the model works, and then we'll do it as efficiently as possible, because I really am more engaged with the idea of coming together as people, like-minded people, to just discuss in a more informal setting. So these slides we'll get through efficiently and do the thing, and then we'll come and have nice chats, which I much prefer. But so without further ado, I guess just you can next slide there. And so we're just going to go through just a basic intro, and definitely one of the main things that I base all of this on is our connection to nature, and asking the questions as to how closely linked are we to nature? Have we gone, are we a part of it? Are we apart from it? So these are the kinds of questions that underpin all of what we do as well. So the vision and mission of the actual pragmatic model, the model explained, and then a couple of benefits, and then I guess the entrepreneurial journey, which has been quite something for me, really, going from drama to this, and still trying to juggle, has been quite an eye opener and a learning path of note. And the future for the Cyclical Collective, which I feel is bright and has a lot of legs. And because of the model and the way it works, it's definitely, it can be replicated in different areas. So I would like to see it grow, but we'll speak more about that. Next slide. So just a brief little intro. As was already said, I studied drama and enterprise management, and enterprise management was the only year I finished my drama degree, and then and realized, oh, okay, cool, I know how to act, but how do I make a business out of it? How do I integrate business skills and into this? So I did a year of that, and that really was eye-opening for me. So after that, I went back and started in the film industry, and realized very quickly that the industry itself was extremely wasteful. And I started talking to line producers and people, in production, to say, listen, what's going on with organic waste? What's going on with recycling? Are there processes involved? Is there infrastructure? And this was about 20 years ago, no jokes, 15 years ago. A lot of the line producers were saying, that's great, awesome stuff, and we really like the way you're thinking, but it's really not going to work on a financial level. And so I got quite disheartened, and then kind of realized that it's all very well bashing your head against something from the outside, but it's really important to then get on the inside and try to change things from the inside out, as we've seen with flowers, opening themselves up to experiences and drawing in the insects from around. So I then went back to the drawing board in terms of what my passion is, and in 2011 I started a campaign called Litter Awareness, which was about just bringing the creative side of waste management to the people. And how that worked was we set up a lounge on the back of a dance floor at a festival, and literally worked tirelessly to bring in all the recycling from the festival to the lounge space. And we had glass cutting machinery, and people working with tins, and people working with pizza boxes, making ships out of pizza boxes, and a whole bunch of different things. Amazing experience, hard work, but also just engaged, with the people, bringing this idea of creativity, waste to resource creativity, to the people, as opposed to it being a far out concept for people, to really engage and close those gaps between throwing something away and adding value to it. And then so I got bee in my bonnet again, and headed off to Cambodia, mainly Southeast Asia, but Cambodia mostly. And I was obviously looking for stuff to do in this way. And the guy there, he was like, listen, we want someone to take on this project of waste management on the island. And I said, phew, it's right up my alley, thanks so much. And we started by just auditing the bags that were going from the landfill, from the island to the land, the mainland, and they were trying to reduce it. So we started looking into this, and 70% of the contents of these bags were organics. So it was just an easy place to start, really, and say, listen, we can get rid of 30% of your waste going to the mainland just by creating compost heaps, and getting into the agricultural space. Interesting, Cambodia, just on a side, like the history of Cambodia was quite raw, and I'm not sure if any of you are aware, but Khmer Rouge time was a communist platform, and they basically killed about 70% of their population just because they were educated, or seemed to be educated. A lot of the people that were originally on this island that I was on were shipped onto the mainland to harvest rice. And then after that coup, or after that regime ended, a bunch of fresh people came onto the island who were always reliant on the mainland for food. And for their, so they never really got back into the sustainable living practices that was originally there, instilled in the people, which is such an interesting space for me to engage in, and I learned so much. So yeah, I came back, and then got into the film industry again, and started working with organizations such as Green Pop that plants trees and creates festivals again, linking people, community, entertainment, celebration with environmental activism. So these kinds of things, we would go and activate these kinds of spaces at festivals, rocking the daisies, a whole bunch of different things, which was fun and super engaging. And it just altogether really just solidified my love for bringing all of these things together in a holistic way. The waste to resource principles, creativity, people, and celebration at the heart of it, really just celebrating. So then 2020 happened, lockdown, and I had a lot of space and time. Me and my family, we found ourselves in a quiet little village called Nature's Valley, which is on the Garden Route. It's a tiny little community which is nuzzled between the ocean and forest and the river, and we basically had time to spend with my 1-year-old daughter and really connect to the earth and connect to the present moment, really. And that's really solidified my love for engaging with the invisible spaces that exist in nature's miracles. So from there, I just had the time and space to conceptualize the Cyclical Collective, which was obviously years of experience being put together, and then just get it off the ground. And I spoke to some people about it, and I was like, had this really big vision about how this thing was going to go down. And he was like, whoa, just start with one thing. Just start with one thing. And again, simple enough. It was the organics, which was a way to engage with people on a very intimate level in their kitchens. We're dealing with that kind of thing every day. So if we can get people to, shift their behaviors to, put their kitchen scraps into one bucket as opposed to the general rubbish, we've done something pretty good already. So that's where I started. We started with a collection service, and then the rest of the model took care of itself there. In between there, I've done some PDC courses and permaculture design courses, some biomimicry courses, some biodynamic farming courses as well. I'm just really interested in engaging in holistic, systemic kind of behavioral changes within us all to be able to incorporate it all into moving forward in a more symbiotic way with our planet. Next. So I wanted to just touch on the most amazing analogy, which is the water cycle. And I'll tell you why. I mean, we see these clouds forming and growing. We see rain falling. We see rivers, etching their way through the landscapes, down valleys, and, eventually into the sea. And we see the ocean, with its tides and all of that. We see all of its beauty, so we understand its value. But the evaporative space, the transpiratory space that happens between the surface of the ocean and the formation of clouds, is something that's a little bit less explicit, something that's harder to see the value in, because literally we can't see it. And this, on a metaphorical level, is where the Cyclical Collective, where the work that we do is rooted in this space of basically looking at, closed loop cycles. How does it happen, and why is it that we are so far from it as a society today? And I think it really is. It's about tapping into those invisible spaces, those liminal spaces again, that evaporative space between the surface of the ocean and the formation of clouds. Just critical to our shifting the way we think about the world, really, in all its aspects and avenues. Next. So I just wanted to get I'm sure you're all aware of the circular economy, and but I wanted to just give a brief little introduction to it. And it's best described in relation to the linear economy, which has bombarded our society for years and years and years, and kind of got us into the trouble we're facing today, which is basically just taking natural resources, making stuff out of it with no concept or no thought about where it's coming from, where it's going to. Consumption, this consumerist behavior that we've been kind of shoved down our throats in a way. And then into landfills, we were like, okay, one time we was like, okay, well, what do we do with all this waste? Well, let's just dig a hole and dump it there and see what happens. Doesn't really make sense. So I'm really, really excited at the prospect of the circular economy coming into mainstream design and things. And which really looks at that same thing of like looking at that water cycle again, of linking it all and creating space for the out.
Sorry, Chris. Yeah, you can go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes, now.
So where the output of one system becomes the input of another. And this is obviously in permaculture design. This is what we look at. We look at energy as a whole and how we can really create efficient systems to be able to utilize that energy and keep it within our grasp and not just let it run off, And so I'm very excited at the prospect of the circular economy coming into the mainstream for sure. Next. So with that in mind, I feel like it's important to discuss our connection to nature. Are we apart from it or a part of it? And I feel like obviously through our evolution as a species, we've come to these juncture points, and there have been religious dogmas that have tried to separate ourselves, and just for example, with Christianity saying that we are above other animal species and things like that, and we are the rulers of all of these things. Whether it's right or wrong, I don't really have an opinion on it, but I believe that we are more connected than we think, and we are a part of nature. So along with that, as well as I think the central plumbing systems, when they were invented, as in our evolution, we went from being nomadic, following the seasons, following animal behaviors in terms of getting our protein sources, getting our nutrients that we needed, and nomadic lifestyles followed. We would follow these animals, and then we realized that we can keep certain animals close to us, and that sedentary living that started coming from that created a space for us to then start living in close quarters with one another. And whereas before we'd be able to go and shit in the bushes, now we're looking at shitting in the bushes outside your neighbor's house is right there, and that wasn't going to fly. So these central plumbing systems then were invented to physically and metaphorically flush our shit away from us and relieve ourselves the responsibility of having to deal with our shit. Which is a very interesting and peculiar kind of conundrum that we found ourselves in, especially since it was celebrated so much. The Roman Empire created the first central plumbing system, and they were like, "Whoa, this is amazing! We don't have to deal with that anymore," And from there, I guess, as a theory, we kind of slipped off the cyclical essence that we came from, and we kind of headed off into a tangent. And all it takes really for us is to again look at taking responsibility for our stuff, for our shit again, and linking us back in. And this, I think, is really important as well. Is there in this space, in the green space, we're often faced with being shamed about how we've been become as a species, and look at all the the greenhouse gases, and you've got to stop this and look how bad we are, And for me, from a soul point of view, I feel like that is it may be true that we've maybe been on a tangent, but we're also here for a reason. And I think the point is to really like look at our alchemy as a passion, as a gift that we've been granted as a species, to create something out of nothing, change its form from one form to another. And all we need to do is just get some inspiration back to be able to take that value and maintain it within those cycles. So I'm all about positivity in this way. I don't want to see doom and gloom and this and that and shame on you, you're not doing this. Rather come it from a different angle and just try and inspire people as to how beautiful we are really, and our ability to transform things. And then just become aware of the potential of that abundance that comes from that. Next. So in terms of all of this, kind of philosophical stuff, it was, the Cyclical Collective then became something that was a little bit more pragmatic. And that's really what I wanted to do with it is, how do we change behavior? And so our vision and mission kind of is to change the way we think and be inspired to just access the cyclical flow of nature, and follow nature in that way, because in nature there is no waste. Tree it loses its leaves in autumn, that they sink down into the soil and become nutrients for that same tree to pick it up again and bring a whole assemblage of microorganisms to the table to help it happen in an invisible space that we can only really see through a microscope. But wow, is it active? These kinds of liminal spaces, again, invisible spaces. So on a practical level, there's a back end, which is to develop these edu-nature hubs, which are kind of the central nervous system of our system. You can actually go to the next slide, I think, for just to see this. So the back end is the edu-nature hubs you'll see on the right there. These are waste to resource centers for food security, environmental education, and business development. They're the central nervous system of the entire model. These are small scale sites that are attached to schools or educational spaces, closely linked to a kitchen of sorts, a community kitchen or a soup kitchen or a school kitchen for this matter. In this way, we can basically secure the food security loop and make it a little bit tighter, have composting sites next to food gardens, next to kitchens. So that is essential to the baseline of this model working, is to have those spaces available for us to process what we collect from the outside community. And then the membership program is another one of that's our front end kind of part of the model, which is providing support and infrastructure for people's homes to be able to efficiently and effectively separate organics from non-organics, as well as down the line educate and support people through the process of becoming more zero waste in their homes. So this then provides the infrastructure, because we're picking up collection service or picking up compost. We're also delivering picking up kitchen scraps, and then delivering compost back to them. They're a part of that process. They understand the value of what we're doing in terms of waste to resource, closing those gaps between throwing something away and adding value to it. And then it also becomes a space for us to look at, okay, cool, these members in an affluent space are they're also collecting up the things that we've identified as resources to be able to upcycle into products and services and things like this. So there's a link, a socioeconomic link as well, that happens between the members and the community that these edu-nature hubs are situated in. So the community support on the end of it is the third kind of focus of the model, which is basically just nurturing localized circular economies through skills development and local food system support. So it's composting workshops, it's upcycling workshops, it's community development workshops and men's circle, women's circle, these kinds of things that bring people together in a space that we can discuss things and become more authentic in our relating to one another and our community, which I think is all part of it. It's this isn't kind of like a plaster kind of symptomatic fixed kind of situation. This model is really trying to underpin a systemic change and really go forward in that way, as opposed to just saying, okay, well, what do we need? Okay, compost or whatever. Like it's a whole encompassing holistic model. Next slide. So the Edu Nature hubs, the first ones are obviously the critical space, as I've explained before, so we can move on quite quickly here. But the proximity to a kitchen is crucial to setting one up as well. So if you're looking at doing this in a small scale or in a small community, to look for kitchens that are available and that have space next to it or involved with or whatever to get a composting facility together as the starting point for these Edu Nature hubs. This is obviously food security, we know, is number one in terms of the way that prices are increasing, fuel prices are increasing, distribution of food is not great. We have the quality of food that we eat is often compromised by insecticides and pesticides and all of these kinds of things, glyphosate particularly. And to keep the food security loop a little bit tighter within our communities becomes essential to that. So looking at kitchens, looking at people that are feeding people, the communities, to partner with in this is really quite ideal. And then, so the environmental education part is obviously key, and again relies on providing like an inspiratory site, that people can come to as a demo site for sustainable living, for regenerative living practices, tools, systems. So if you can imagine. We'll get through into like what the whole thing looks like in its entirety. And then entrepreneurial development side is obviously linked to that very intrinsically as well, just to give value to these waste to resource efforts that are made. So basically identifying abundant resources that again that are abundant in the community, like for example chip packets that are impossible to recycle. What do you do with chip packets? If there are a lot in your community, especially in low-income housing settings, I've seen so many chip packets. It's quite ridiculous. And so that was the first thing we were like, what do we do with it? And then, so how do you then create that as an abundant resource into something that can reach a market and a wider market? I like to think of this idea of with a circular economy within the community of this a hurricane of sorts or a typhoon. Where you have this center of energy, and around it you've got these arms that are sweeping in towards it and creating energy, bringing that energy into the center of it, which is your small community around these Edu Nature hubs, and allowing that value to them to increase and the momentum to grow and the power of it to grow. Finding markets internationally, online, whatever, for these products is something that we're looking at doing in the future as well, to really bring in the finances, that energy into the mix, and to find a home for it. So yeah, you can move on to the next one. So I just want to, in its entirety, this isn't what the first one looks like, but we're getting there slowly, and it obviously is contextual. It's very important to, when you go into community development, to look at what you have in the community and look what is available already, and the people that offer skills and assets. So developing an asset map of sorts within your community is essential. But in terms of its entirety, like in the pregnant version of this, there'd be a drop-off site for recycling items, needs-based upcycling items, a cleaning station, which I think is crucial to the creating value, closing that gap again between throwing something away and adding value to it. Just cleaning it, just that one act really brings things to life again. Storage facility, having a space where you can compartmentalize everything. So I imagine, in the future, there'll be these big ass shopping centers, or, the size of Pick and Pay, or the size of one huge grocery store, where you go to and you're like, hey, sorry, as an artist or a crafts person, you can go and I'm looking for purple lighters. And then the person will say, hey, aisle 7 on the right, there you go. Having that kind of compartmentalization element of it ready to go, so that we can actually get it to the people that are using these resources. And then composting station, fertilization, creating natural fermentation processes to create natural fertilizers, a gardens and food forest where people can come and relax and feel the vibe, feel into nature, having bee walkthroughs, kind of bee fodder for gardens and things, an educational space, which is like an outdoor boma where people can talk about things, a workshop village, which is basically like a space where upcyclers or artists or craft people can come and take a particular item or resource and work with it and create it, alchemize it into something of value. The cafe restaurant is then, used, the food that's grown there is prepared and given life to and offered back to the public, and a shop and an office to be able to sell as a retail space for all of the things that are happening on that site. So this is the grand pregnant version of the Edu Nature House, which we're hoping to get to in the future, but obviously these things take a lot of time. So next. So the objectives, I think, which is interesting for the membership, firstly, to become the primary income stream as a membership program. So people pay a membership fee, and to make it like an incentive-based idea, which is all encompassing in a way, like, let us take on the zero waste journey for you. Let us support this with you. So I think this is really interesting in terms of like making this model sustainable. If you look at just how many people you sign up as members, and then you look at that's your income there to be able to start going, okay, cool, like how can we distribute these resources in other areas. It's also a beautiful socioeconomic bridge between high income housing settings and low income groups that allows for this transactionary element to start coming into existence. A lot of people, I find, want to make a difference. They want to see change, but they just don't have the capacity, or they don't have the inclination. But if someone came to them and said, we've got this solution, I think people would jump on it, and people do, as I've seen with my members. Like, people have this incredible value now that's added to their lives in a way that they know that they're making a difference to their local communities there. So, for example, my members are collecting packets for the upcycle products, packets and clothing for these bags that we're making, and they know who it is that are making them in their community. So it's this personal relationship that develops between affluent spaces and less affluent spaces, which I think is critical as well for us all to kind of shift our mindsets around its capitalist mind frame in a more community-driven local economy kind of situation. Often, this is an educational space for people to come and say, cool, we want to do this. We wanted this zero waste journey. Here we go. But we just need someone to support us through that. So that's kind of what we're there for. Next. So these are the community collabs or collaborations. That's the one element of it. We've taken three models, three basic prototypes for products that we want to develop and find markets for. And these are the Tetra Pak wallets, which and other uses of Tetra Pak. I think Tetra Pak is one of the things that's super hard to recycle. In South Africa, we had a recycling plant, and it's no longer in use for some reason. And it's very hard. The distribution networks of getting all of this Tetra Pak to one site to be able to recycle it properly is almost just a no-go. People don't do it, so it ends up going to landfill. So finding uses for Tetra Pak, for example, that people are engaging with. The other idea that we'd like to develop is using them as insulation tiles in low-income housing settings. You've got this incredible product that is highly insulating, and if you have a layer of air within this airtight kind of pocket, you can use them almost as tiles to line walls in low-income housing settings. And we haven't really prototyped that, but it's one of the ideas that we're looking at. Tea light candles, people in South Africa, we have a lot of load shedding at the moment. People are going through wax candles like you cannot believe. And there's a lot of wastage of the wax, and it's also one of those things, if you are a recycler, you don't know what to do with. It's just something that you can't put in an eco brick, or, it's kind of difficult to get in there, and it's like it doesn't get recycled. So you end up like throwing your wax away. Those kinds of hard to recycle items are the things that we're really trying to focus on. So these tea light candles, we've got a little project going on where we collect the wax from our members and bottle caps from our local restaurants and things, the wine bottle caps particularly, and our members as well, and we make that, and those are the products that come out of it, and they work really well actually. There's a 4-hour burning time, and a beautiful also a metaphor for keeping that fire burning, keeping that gees alive. The plant jugglers are one of my favorite. I've been conceptualizing this for years and years and years and years. I just wanted to. I'm a juggler myself, and I just like really had this idea like to just create juggling balls out of plastic yarn. And we also then created a use for chip packets and other soft plastics as well, to stuff them with chip packets and other soft plastics, as well as building rubble, which is also something that gives it nice weight and something that's very hard to recycle. So in its small quantities as well, it's like, oh, a little bit here and there, we pack these things. But let's say this thing takes off, and we can get places. Every single EduNature hub that we develop in the future has this kind of thing available, and we can really do some difference there. We can really make a big change. Next. And some of the benefits that I kind of offer the members as well, and in terms of it's every EduNature hub, I'm busy employing 4 people who are taking on as well on a kind of part-time basis, a day-to-day basis. But if it's in its entirety, it really has the potential to create jobs and be a space that community can come together and talk about things. And there's this element of social cohesion, which I think is critical to community development and our world in general, just for people to have spaces in the round, equal spaces and equal say, where their voice is heard. Even regardless of what your socioeconomic standpoint is or wherever, for people can sit around in a circle, hopefully with a fireplace, and go back to our roots and really talk about issues before they become big. I think this is how communities in rural spaces or back in the day used to do it, but they would have the elders and leaders who would take inspiration from the wisdom that they've and insight that they've had through life experience, and come to the table and be able to discuss things before they become massive issues, and also are self-empowered through that. So there's this community element of empowering oneself through talking about things, and not relying on the government. And I think in South Africa is a perfect example of where this has almost backfired after apartheid. The new government promised, they made a whole bunch of promises to the people to say, you've been very unfairly treated. We're so sorry. We'll give you free housing. We'll give you free education. We'll give you this. We'll give you that. We'll give you this. And what I've seen happen over the decades is that even now people are rooted in this idea of being handed things. It's expected that the government provides for them, so they will just wait around and twiddle our thumbs until that happens. And obviously capacity is such that it's just not going to happen. So to kind of flip that around and say, to really empower communities to say, we can do this ourselves. So these spaces then act as those activating spaces. Connection to nature as well, just really getting rooted in that idea of taking inspiration from nature and how it works. Education, food security, circularity, all of these things, creativity. I mean, waste to resource in itself is just such a beautiful way of doing that. You take all of the benefits of it, all of the solutions that it offers. It really is a powerful, powerful space to be working in. And I think, preaching to the choir here, but it's a really, really engaging space, and I'm so excited for it, really, because it's abundant. The resources are there for us to take and to use and to create value and to really take something forward that the world has never seen, really, in terms of it being like how awesome would it be if we could just tackle all the landfill sites and go, hey guys, this is actually shit that we can deal with. There's a reason why it's the value, like, it's just not going anywhere, so let's just create value out of it. Next. So in terms of the entrepreneurial journey that I've gone on, it's been an interesting one. Obviously, I just don't really have experience in the business world. I don't have that kind of grip on things. I'm more kind of like a creative who's got this vision, and I'm just plowing on and learning as I go. So the first thing I found interesting, and I'm still kind of looking at and figuring out is the elusive initial capital conundrum, which I call. And it's this thing of going, okay, I've got something here, but it's not really on the ground, but I need money to make it happen. So where do I get that money? How do I make that happen without having something concrete? And it's literally about what I did. I just put in a tiny amount from my own bank account. My initial capital investment was from myself. I was like, I've been going to these mentor and these kind of life coaching sessions, and it's like to invest in yourself, invest in yourself. And and then I realized, like, well, okay, cool. Like, I've got this idea and this plan, and what better way to invest, in myself than to give myself the chance of seeding this, and really like taking it to the next level. So that was that. But then obviously, as you go, you have something that's working and a model that's working, and then people see it, and then before you know it, you've got some momentum going, and it's amazing if you open yourself up to receiving help from people, funds from people. Then it really does happen that way. But it has been a challenge, and it's a continual one as well, because I think it's really important to have a model that is sustainable, that doesn't rely on external funding all the time, because that can change at the drop of a hat. So to have something solid in place that, okay, cool, we can still carry on with this, even if we narrow it down at some point or whatever, we can still carry on with it. I guess for me personally, like, because this has been in its conceptual phase for years, I've wanted it all to kind of come together quite quickly, and to just, the challenge is to say, okay, cool, universe has its own time frame. I'm just going to do it in its own time, and just one step at a time, one step at a time, one step at a time. I think the nuanced systemic complexities of community development work is always something that is going to be a challenge, but also a reward at the same time. I think, for example, the EduNature Hub that we have going now, it's in an impoverished community, and drugs is a big thing, especially TIC. I'm not sure if any of you guys know this, but it's really is a dangerous drug that just, there's nothing upstairs when people are on it. And we have people climbing over the fence to just break stuff for fun, so we have this continual thing that we're dealing with, in the community as an issue, a drug issue, a gang issue, these kinds of systemic issues that I think are very challenging, because we kind of feel like sometimes it's 2 steps ahead, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. But at the same time, for me, and my optimistic way, I'm like, okay, cool, this is an opportunity to look at something in a different way. Okay, we're putting down this offering here. Okay, so how then do we create a space for changing the way that people think about drugs, and why is it that people get into drugs in the first place? Why is it people get into gangs? They lack a sense of purpose, or there's a lacking of male role models in their lives. Or, so how do we make this thing? How do we shift up our gears, take a step back, look at it from a different angle, and say, okay, cool, can this then EduNature Hub be a space for us to talk about these issues, and creating a club environment where, we're a gang in itself, but we're a nature-loving gang, and we can use this idea of being part of something, which is, I think, is one of the main hooks into gangsterism, is this, for people are down and out at a young age, a very sensitive age growing up, and they just want to feel like they belong to a culture, to a community, and unfortunately gangs offer that. They say, hey, come here, bro, we'll look after you. Da, 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 da. So if we do the same thing, but then just have the element of keeping it exciting, keeping them on their toes, offering skills development and workshops and fun, a celebration, and then using waste to resource as a stimulus for all of that, and create a gang of our own. And then, this kind of lends into it, the challenge of, authentic and sustainable community buy-in. And this is really important as well to always come back to as well. It's like, being a white man in a space where I want to see change, but it's often not easy for people to really see that on the onset. And I feel like the only way that things can be sustainable if it's like it's taken on is a buy-in from the community completely and wholly and authentically. So this is something that's really, really important to always gauge. And in Cambodia, my experience in Cambodia taught me this a lot. You know, we kind of had this idea coming in from a Western frame point and saying, hey, look, we want to give you education, we want to teach you English. And it kind of backfired because we were teaching these kids English and all they wanted to do was leave the mainland and leave the sustainable way of life. And, you know, and then we were saying, hey guys, go back, capitalism is bad. But all they wanted was heads on beds, and they wanted money for their families to feed their families. So this idea of like coming in with this external viewpoint of something and trying to like plonk it on a community is something that we really need to think about all the time when there's community development and small scale community projects going on. You know, it's got to come from the community as well. You know, so that's a slow process in itself, and it's you know, it's finding those people that have that spark, that have that insight to, and then learning from them. It's a learning game all the way. Never stop learning. So I guess all of these challenges then are just into the solutions and rewards of it, you know. So it's trusting the process of things. It's, you know, it's making connections. It's finding friends, you know, in places you never knew possible. And and I think from a member's point of view, one of the greatest rewards as well is seeing people say and hearing people go, listen, I never knew that I had this waste guilt, but now that you've come into my life, like I don't have any of it, you know. It's gone. It's you know, it was definitely there and it was eating me up inside, but now it's gone. So thank you. So like just hearing those small affirmations of what we do is really important to just carrying on and keeping that fire alive. Next, I think. So the future, because it's a contextual model and hopefully it can be scalable in the sense that it can, you know, these edgy nature hubs can pop up locally in various areas. The vision I see for it is that every city urban park has one of these micro edgy nature hubs, you know, where there's a little composting site, there's a little veggie garden, there's a little space where people can learn about mushroom growing for, you know, or insects or bee fodder or whatever it is. And it's a play space that's attached to parks that's in close walking distance from everyone who's, you know, living in a neighborhood. So speaking to government, figuring out whether, you know, it's possible for that kind of thing, but there are spaces available. So I would really like to see this grow in that way of, you know, having independent champions taking on this model and going, cool, let's go. We've got a space here. This is feeding people. This is a space where we can convert all of this waste into resource and pump it out there. So you can also, you know, with that in mind, keeping with its small scale approach, you know, you don't have the need for massive amounts of transport costs. You could do bicycles. You could do, you know, have people collecting spaces on bicycles, or you can have the members bringing their own stuff to the site and engaging. Okay, and I think that's it. So yeah, I think I was a bit longer than expected, but yeah, I'm very, very keen on just hearing some questions and to discuss things a bit further.
Well, wow. Thank you for that enlightening presentation. What a thought-provoking cyclic insight, I would say, because I feel like whatever you said, we have to see something very like basic that is in nature out there, like, you know, and it exists there. And we just have to see it and how it functions, and we just have to do it like how nature has been doing, because we are a part of nature in itself. And you starting from a pilot project, like a small area, and to see an impact such as a group that you talked about, a gang which had no purpose, and now they are into the group and they are the members. It's really interesting to see how like people perceive these group as like a threat to the community or something like that. But now, as they know what they can do and how they can change and see what you like sentence it as a form of like waste, using waste as a resource to stimulate, like, you know, and I really like that word, like how you have went ahead with it. Thank you so much. It feels great to explore the complexity of the human condition, and also to see how we can harness our gift and to give back to the nature in itself. So let me quickly check if you have any questions from our audience. So one is like, where is like you based? Like, is it in South Africa? Which city? Like the project you are talking about?
Yes, so we're based in Nature's Valley is where I live now, and the community that the EduNature Hub is in a small community on the top of the pass, connected to us. It's a small, relatively small village of about 6,000 people, and it is attached to the primary school there. So incredible, just. I was looking for a space to do this in, and I said, oh, well, yeah, I mean, I need it. This is education, and this is where we need to be. So, and the school was like, hey, we have this whole section on the back end of it that's we're not using at all. And there was a guy there who was already, his name was Joseph Mapondo, who was already kind of gardening a little bit there, and he had a vision to see the kids use that space a little bit more. So we partnered, and he basically carried on growing the veg, and then we just started the composting facility from there. And this interaction with the school has been just so phenomenal as well, you know,
Wow.
to see like space now and really engaging, and yeah.
So we have another questions from Eric, if I pronounce it right. How different is this idea that you have with the cyclical collective from the material recovery facilities like that, like big cities have in terms of material recovery facility? How different is the idea, your idea?
So I'm not entirely so would you say the metro recovery facility?
Yes, material recovery. As in, like, if you have a waste that is coming from a community and you segregate these wastes and you try to recover as much as you have from a waste like hump like that you have, and you recover the material, for instance, plastic, paper, everything. Like, we have these facilities. So how different is your idea with these ideas?
Yeah. So I think in a way, keeping it small scale is quite important in terms of it being a holistic solution, being inspired, having spaces that people are inspired by nature before anything else. So, you know, I find that keeping it small scale kind of it eliminates that the feeling. Let's say, you know, we go one big site and everything comes there. We'd have to start mechanizing. It would become a production line in itself, you know, where it is not entirely conducive to community cohesion for people to come and do workshops and to be inspired by the idea of, you know, natural systems. You know, so it's great that these things exist and it can scale to that point for sure. But I think, yeah, that's kind of one of the main elements of the model, as well as that interaction with the people that we're getting the resources from, you know. So the membership program allows for this interaction to go, okay, cool, like there's this direct correlation to these initiatives that are taking place in low income housing settings with the members who are, you know, paying a membership fee. They feel part of this whole entire thing, and they feel they're making a difference, and as well as, you know, like incorporating a bit of a circular economy mission to it, to like engage in that idea of you know, creating products and upskilling through that process. So it is great that these things exist, and I don't know if they exist in South Africa really, but we have recycling centers, transfer stations, but in terms of compartmentalizing everything and recovering things to go to somewhere else, South Africa is way behind on. So definitely, I'd love to actually know more about that. It sounds fascinating.
But I'll also like what you said about the responsibility of the community in itself, and to see how big change you can do even with a small initiative in itself. We have Miss Hania who have raised her hand. Yes, yeah, you can unmute, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yes.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Patricia. And thank you, Chris. Sorry, I'm outside. I had a meeting in the city. I didn't have enough time to come back to office. So, Chris, my name is Hania. I'm the vice chair of the Young Professional Group. And it's a pity that I see that no one from our African chapter is there. We are very honored that from this year, we have just launched a Young Professional Group in Africa, and leading also people who are actually established this Young Professional Group is people from South Africa. And next year, our annual World Congress will be in South Africa in Cape Town. So usually usually when we are coming there, that's why we started this like Young Professional. We launched it this year. It is in Oman. I'm traveling in 2 weeks to Oman. So, and also the head of the organization will be there, who is actually will hosting the World Congress. And because they will hosting the World Congress, they wanted to also active the young people. That's why they support us to launch a Young Professional Group. And they were also so generous that they accepted not only to have the Young Professional Group for the South Africa, but also to accept people from around Africa. And that's why they are having right now a small website, and we're starting like promoting and disseminating the information. I would be very happy to put these people to contact with you if you allow. So maybe they can benefit more about like this initiative and this wonderful. They will have right now like something like a newsletter, and they will have also some events inside Africa and inside South Africa. We're trying to have even different parts of Africa, like South Africa, West part, North part, and East part. And and if next year we'll probably for sure we should come. And if we come, maybe we can have like organize an event. Every year we have an event for the Young Professional, and if we have such a things next year, we would be happy like to have to invite some other participants too. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's awesome.
Thank you so much, Ms. Tanya, for your presence.
Yeah.
Thank you. So before we like end this session, there is last one question, because I want to take this. It is from Aprilia. She says, "Hi, Chris. Thanks for your sharing. Can you elaborate more how you gain the community? It seems you have a very good approach. Some tips maybe can be relevant for me."
So how you gain the community's trust, I guess, is or how we engage.
How you engage the community.
I think the first step in that way is to observe, and that in terms of permaculture principles and things, and how we gain insight and value into anything is by observing before we do anything, before we act. And really encourage, if we want to make a change in a community, to set up develop a community asset map of sorts. So go into the communities, talk to people, spend time, work out what's going on, who's already doing what, and then putting together a bit of a map in terms of the locations that could possibly be of use to you, the people, the resources that could be of use to you or to your initiative. So create a relationship, a rapport with that community that is much more rooted in an authentic relating than trying to, again, change something from the banging your head against something from the outside. So it really is about, going into a community with a fresh, open mind of learning. More than teaching, because often it is as community development workers, we want to go in there because we know that there's inequality, we know that there people are suffering, we want to make a change, we want to make a difference, but in that there's a lot of ego that needs to be kept in check as well. It's like we have a lot to learn from people who live in all different kinds of ways, and So it's really important, I think, when we do step into a community to gain people's trust through being trustworthy in that way, and being able to listen as much as to give, to receive as much as to give, so in that, I don't know if that answers your question, but it's more of an energetic thing to come into the community with.
I think it really makes sense, because like, rather than going and teaching, you have to first learn how the community functions, and then you have to develop how you can like put your insights into it. So I think it's wonderful what you shared, your insight. So yeah, I'm sorry, we are 3 minutes away from this time. Yeah, but what a great session. Thank you so much to our speaker, Chris Fisher, for sharing your journey, your vision and expertise. And thank you, the audience as well, for your active participation. Remember, this is not the end. It's just the beginning of the Career Talks webinar series. And I hope to see you all next time soon. Join our community, subscribe to our newsletter, or follow us on our social media for updates on upcoming webinar and events. Once again, I'm Pratishtha Shrestha, your moderator, and thank you for joining us today. We look forward to seeing you at our next webinar session. Have a productive and very fulfilling day. Thank you, everyone.
You.
Thank you very much.